Boys, we've done flyweight, we've done bantamweight. Now today we are going to go through the entire featherweight division. I'm going to give you guys fights that need to happen. Now, are these going to be the most, realistic? Not at all. If you watched any of the past ones, if you've watched flyweight or bantamweight, these aren't realistic. These are just ones that we need to happen. These are the ones that the hood needs in order to heal. These are the fights that would bring Crips and Bloods together to reunite. Realistic? No, but for some reason, featherweight, this has been one of the most realistic matchmakings, I guess, I've made so far. And I have noticed that for some reason, featherweight might be stacked, but I've been having a hard time making matches for these guys. That being said, I don't have nobody here. I got 16 fighters, 8 matches total on every fight that we need to see in featherweight, at least this year. But let's start off with the title picture, because this is a no-brainer. Alexander Volkanovski, Movsar Evloev. Is this going to be the most entertaining title fight we can do at featherweight? No. Do I think it's going to be a boring fight? Absolutely not. I do think it's going to be fun. However, this narrative of Movsar Evloev having this thudding power, the thudding power of Movsar Evloev, he's going to put out Alex Volkanovski. I don't agree with that whatsoever. Movsar Evloev has a better chance of knocking out Dominic Reyes than he does of Alexander Volkanovski, in my opinion. Yeah, we can go back and see, he did drop, Arnold Allen and all this, but Arnold Allen and Volkanovski are two different dudes. I think this is the fight to be made next. Both of them want it. Volkanovski has called for it. Movsar obviously would take that fight. And when you look at featherweight, there isn't any other title fights that make sense. Now, like I said in the beginning, I'm not just matchmaking shit that, makes sense. I want them to be entertaining. And the biggest reason why I want this title fight next, I want my boy to defend the belt again and go on another little run here. But yeah, Alexander Volkanovski, Movsar Evloev, I want to see that shit next. And again, does it have to do with how much of a barn burner this is going to be? No, not really. It's majority of, I want Volk to cement himself as a featherweight GOAT and defend the belt. But let's move down. We were having a lot of talks of Aaron Pico versus Movsar Evloev, but I don't think that's happening. Both of them have came out and confirmed that's not what's happening. So what do we do next? I was really struggling on who I should match up. Lerone Murphy, bro. I don't know who to match up Lerone Murphy with, and that's mainly because Lerone Murphy isn't the most entertaining fighter, so I don't really care to see him fight. However, if it was Lerone Murphy, Aaron Pico, sign me up. I actually want to see that. I want to see if Pico is good enough to be into the UFC, and if he is, and he comes out here and he beats a undefeated contender prospect, then that's a good sign. We could probably do Aaron Pico. I could see him doing Aaron Pico Volkanovski next, to be honest. But yeah, Lerone Murphy, Aaron Pico, I just didn't know who to match up Lerone Murphy with, just because, to be honest, I don't care who he fights next, because he's just not that much of an entertaining fighter. That's why a lot of the fan base don't care about Lerone Murphy. He's just not that entertaining. But moving down, a barn burner fight we need in that Noche UFC card, Diego Lopes, Yair Rodriguez. Someone needs to go and fucking slap Yair Rodriguez across the face, because he's just being a retard right now, saying that, a title shot is next, that he wants a title shot, and it makes sense for him to fight Volkanovski because of the history they have, and he doesn't want to fight Diego Lopes, even though, go back to that press conference, it sure looked like that dude wanted to throw hands with Diego Lopes. And whatever happened to defending your boy, Yair? I thought you were out here defending your boy against Diego Lopes because Diego and his friends put hands on him. But I guess fuck it, when it's time to actually sit down and fight, Yair don't want that smoke. I want this fight next. Either cut Yair Rodriguez or book him against Diego Lopes. We have to stop being so lenient with these fighters. I made a video not too long ago, maybe yesterday or the day before, I forget when I posted it, but it was me going through what I would do if I ran the UFC. And one of those things on that list is being way more strict. Going back to old Dana, we need the old Dana back, because this Dana is too relaxed with this shit. I guarantee you, old Dana White would not stand up for most of the shit that these guys are saying, mainly because most of these guys are just ducking fights and only wanting title fights, undeserved title fights. The old Dana would have made the fights that the fans want happen, and that's just simply not what's happening right now. So Diego Lopes, Yair Rodriguez, book that shit for the Mexico pay-per-view, and if it's not on there, we riot. But moving down, another one that we just need to happen, and it should have happened a long-ass time ago. Is this the most realistic? No, because the rankings are a little bit far in the rankings, but I don't give a shit. I want Brian Ortega, Aljamain Sterling. This should have been the first fight that Aljamain Sterling got in featherweight. I don't know why this fight hasn't happened. A battle of honestly like the same style, and I'm here for it. I want to see this fight. You ask most fans in the UFC and you ask them if Brian Ortega versus Aljamain Sterling is up on a pay-per-view, how hyped are you? I guarantee a lot of them are going to say pretty hyped, especially because, Aljamain, yes, he's not in the most entertaining fights in his career. We go look at UFC 300, a stage where every single fighter should be trying to impress. Aljamain Sterling comes out here and, stinks it up. But pair him up with Brian Ortega. And I feel like a lot of the fans who, especially if you know, I feel like they would be very happy for this one. And I want to see this. I don't understand why this hasn't been booked. I don't even know where they are in the rankings. Let's quickly look at the rankings and see where they are in compare to each other. Okay, so maybe it's not as bad as I thought. Brian Ortega ranked number 7, Aljamain ranked number 9. And it kind of works out because both of them in the past 3 have only won once and they're both coming off a loss. So it kind of makes sense to book this shit now. Again, if this doesn't happen, I don't know how much longer all the bullshit needs to happen for us to finally start, rioting against the UFC. Honestly, put this at UFC 317. Is that International Fight Week? Put it at that as the prelim main event. I would be hyped for that one. Run this shit next. I want to see this. Moving down, Dan 50K Ige. And what do we do with Dan? The issue is with Dan Ige, he has fought a decent amount of people in the top 15 already. Because if we look at his record right now, we see, he's fought Movsar Evloev already. He's fought Josh Emmett already. He's fought Calvin Kattar already. He's fought Bryce Mitchell. He's fought Diego Lopes. He's fought Murphy. He's fought Woodson. And I don't necessarily care to see him rematch any of those guys. And all those guys are pretty logical next fights for him. But I think a fun matchup, a style that would be honestly really fun to see. Both of these dudes. I think styles makes fights. And this would be a barn burner fight. I want Dan Ige versus Pitbull. Pitbull, I don't know if it was just because, the UFC jitters, all that shit, but maybe it was the reach. Maybe it was the weird dynamicness of Yair Rodriguez. I don't know. Yeah, but Pitbull just looked like shit. We give him a bounce back. Is it going to be a easier fight? Not necessarily. Styles make fights, and I think this would be a barn burner fight, and I want to see this one next. And if Dan Ige can get past someone like a Pitbull, I wouldn't be mad at seeing Dan Ige go up into the top, fight someone like Brian Ortega next, someone high up in the rankings, because, this dude deserves a bump up into the rankings in my opinion. But yeah, this would be a barn burner level fight. I want to see this. Put this on. I wouldn't be mad if this was a main event on, I hate saying the Apex fights, but again, if we go to the Apex, I wouldn't be mad if this is a main event, but like a non-pay-per-view card, I wouldn't be mad at this being the main event. If it's a stacked one, a co-main event. But yeah, this is a fun fight. Moving down, Josh Emmett. I want to see Josh Emmett back. I think we run him with someone else who's on a pretty good win streak right now. I believe he's on like a 3-fight KO streak. Josh Emmett, Steve Garcia. And it also gives Steve Garcia a chance to get into the rankings now, because I believe he's just outside the rankings. He is 6-2 in the UFC, and he's only lost to Mahasheti and Luis Pena, but it is what it is. That doesn't really count. He's knocked out Jose Mariscal. He's TKO Chase Hooper. It goes on and on. This dude deserves a bump up in competition, and I kind of lied. He's on a 5-fight KO/TKO streak. Bring him up into the rankings. Him versus Josh Emmett. Someone's getting knocked out. I want to see this one next. Moving down. What do we do with one of the biggest names in featherweight right now in Gene Silva? Now, at first, I'm thinking, I want to see some carnage. I want to see a five-round battering of Gene Silva versus Josh Emmett. That would still be a barn burner fight. However, I do like the Josh Emmett Steve Garcia fight a little bit more. And I think we need to not fast track Gene Silva, but I think we need to, speed it up a little bit more. Like skipping a Josh Emmett fight and moving up to what he would get after a Josh Emmett fight. And I think a good, really fun, competitive fight, Gene Silva, Arnold Allen. This could be if you really wanted that could be a title eliminator for Gene Silva. He gets past this one, he gets a title shot, because right now Arnold Allen is ranked number 6, and I wouldn't be mad if we see that happening. I do think this would be a fun stylistic matchup. Styles make fights, and I do think Arnold Allen is a better at least a more entertaining style to watch as fans than a Josh Emmett. And again, put this on like International Fight Week. I think in the next coming days, I'm going to try to make a stacked yet realistic UFC International Fight Week pay-per-view card. And best believe these ones are going to be on. Moving down outside the rankings, I only have one guy outside, well, two guys, but one fight outside the rankings. You know we had to get Nate the Train in here. Nate the Train always comes out here, brings the violence. Who do I want to see him fight next? Joanderson, Brito. I just think this would be a crazy-ass fight. And, you know, we have Joanderson, Brito a little bit on a decline as of recently, performance-wise. And then we have Nate the Train, someone who's out here always moving forward, marching forward. It doesn't matter. He's moving forward, looking for that finish. I want to see this one next. I think this would be a fun fight. Let me know in the comments below. Did I miss anyone at featherweight that you guys want to see? It doesn't have to be the most realistic match, just some entertaining fights. And yeah, again, UFC, is it 317 for International Fight Week? I think it is. If it is, that's what I'm going to be making. I'm going to make that stacked pay-per-view probably next week sometime, to be honest. Maybe a Tuesday, Wednesday type of post. But yeah, thank you guys for watching to the end of the video, and I will see you guys in my next video.